This'll scare him.
Oh my gosh! A floating shopping list!
Welcome back, friends and fans, to the Complete Guide to Horror podcast. Today, we're discussing yet another remake.
Wait, what?
This time, 13 Ghosts, or stylized as Thir13en Ghosts for some reason.
I prefer the term bitch.
This is, of course, a remake of the 1960 film, 13 Ghosts by William Castle. Tends to be a trend with Dark Castle Entertainment. They just love remaking all of William Castle's 50s, 60s films, which I love, with a modern twist.
The ghost of a murderous cook in the kitchen.
Stop it! Stop it, I say!
It's definitely a nostalgia-based trip. I remember seeing this poster at the cinemas in Orange where I grew up as a kid. I remember being so fascinated with the poster because it's the whole collage of all the ghosts into a scary face. And it's oh, what's this movie about? But having seen the movie when I was, maybe 9 or 10 years old, I remember thinking it was so cool. Everything from the house with all it's all glass. It looks like a very futuristic house. The fact that there's 13 ghosts, it was oh, it's not just one ghost, there's 13 of them. Woo! And also just some really, I guess, gory sequences, especially referring to the princess in the bathtub full of blood. Also, the lawyer that gets sliced in half with the door. Miss Honey gets pulverized between the walls. It's a movie where it's actually a lot more graphic than you would come to expect, especially from a Dark Castle Entertainment film. I actually think Rah Digger, who plays the nanny, is the standout of this movie. I think that she's so funny. She's definitely the comedic relief.
I am sick of this nanny shit. I've had it. This was not in the job description. I quit!
I do feel like Matthew Lillard was kind of weirdly cast in this movie. I do think Matthew Lillard does a really great job elsewhere. No one else can do Shaggy and Scooby-Doo. No one else can do Stu Barker in Scream.
I think I'm dying here, man.
Look, overall, I kind of think it's stupid and a bit silly. I did watch it today and it was kind of like pulling teeth at times. And there's some good kill sequence in there, as you mentioned. The nanny just reminds me of Brenda from Scary Movie. Everything else is just kind of dumb and stupid, and I really tried to engage and sort of understand what's going on. Kind of feels a bit like House on Haunted Hill all over again. I don't know who's doing it worse, but they're kind of both sharing the same role.
Not even fucking close.
As always, shout out to Video Easy, Nambucca Heads. I remember the night that I watched this movie for the first time, and then I watched Jeepers Creepers for the first time. And I remember this movie actually freaked me out when I was a kid. It got me all scared. And then I remember our family friend that was there with us at the time, she got freaked out.
Okay, I get it. I'm scared. I'm scared.
Don't laugh at me. Don't laugh.
She was too scared after watching Jeepers Creepers. She thought, the Jeepers Creepers guy was going to sniff her out and take one of her body parts. But yeah, I remember Mum, because of course she was fucking around with both of us and trying to scare both of us. And I was going to bed, or if I go to the toilet or something, she was waiting outside the door to go rah as soon as I came out. So evil to do to a child. But yeah, hilarious. I'd watched this again years later and been like, how the fuck did this scare me when I was a kid? And it was interesting to watch it again yesterday. I still think the kills in this are really, really good. I really like Ben Moss, the lawyer. That the glass door chopping him in half is just so good. I reckon that's a great kill. I remember being horrified by that when I was a child. Also really like Miss Honey getting flattened. I didn't realize how stupid that looked. Like I remember thinking that was really like, oh, when I was a kid, but then I watched it yesterday and I was like, oh, it's literally just like a photo effect on Paint Shop Pro to like make her look distorted, and I actually laughed at it. So it's just so funny to see what scares us when we're younger, and then we're like, when we're a bit older and, you know, technology's come a little bit further of like, this is ridiculous. As you mentioned, Justin, I can see why why there would have been such a big budget with this, particularly with the set designs and like visual effects that were involved in this. So I can kind of see that. But that still does kind of seem like a big budget for a movie like this, I must say. But overall, for me, it was a trip down memory lane. I can see how watching it for the first time, you'd be like, oh, okay. But yeah, I still found it entertaining to watch, and it was interesting to go back and take a look at this, to be honest. Yeah.
My favorite part of this movie overall is actually the production design. I love how weird the house is itself. So everything's all glass panels and it shifts in and out, and it's got the scribes on the walls and everything. I haven't seen that in any other movie before. And I guess it is more of a ghost prison, if you like, but stylized as like this futuristic house. For me, the ghosts themselves are both a favorite part and a least favorite part. So I like that it's diverse ghosts, but I think some of them are so fucking stupid. What the hell is the torso supposed to do? Like, it's all cut up. It's not threatening. Likewise, the dire mother and the the overgrown child. How I like the story behind all these ghosts, because I think that helps solidify it, but I just don't think it's scary. Like, oh, a little old lady, what is she gonna do? Like feed me to death or something? Like, I don't know. It's just a little silly. There's one shot in this movie which I guess has been burned into my brain because I have this insane fear of fire. So, like, that shows the mother of the family, she gets burnt alive, and, like, you see that quick shot where she's stuck in the fire, and it's like, damn, that's a bit brutal. I didn't think they'd show the full thing, but it was quick, but then also seeing her as, like, I guess, the good ghost of the house, and she's, like, got the IV drip, whatever it is, and, like, half her body's burnt and whatnot. It's like, ooh, that's creepy, because we've seen what happened to her, and now we see the after effects.
Miss Honey getting crushed was awesome. I also like the scene, a bit of the tension where it's the daughter, watching, she's getting off on washing her face in the bathtub and smiling gleefully while the chick's in there, with a bloodbath, and she's about to like hack her. It's a bit of like tension building up in that. And what's his name? Stu getting, I don't know if you realize, but his back actually gets bent against like the back of the window.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. I was like, oh my God, can't even remember the last time I saw someone actually snap their back like that in a horror movie. So that was really cool. There were so many explosives at the end, and it was just like my unit was on fire or something, exploding. And then I thought Jerry Bruckheimer might have been part of it.
I don't know how you drive up to a house like this where there's all the writing on the wall and it's all made out of glass and be like, yeah, no, let's put this on the market. Let's just put this on the market. This is, I'm not going inside there. I mean, people writing on the walls. This is ridiculous. Fuck that.
Yeah.
But I do love the set design. I like the machine at the center of the house. I think that's, a cool design. I love the gore in this movie. I thought the opening scene was actually pretty strong in that like junkyard. And you've got people getting flung around, and particularly that scene where one of the guys gets like folded into the car.
Yeah.
Like, gets folded backwards into the car. It's almost like that part in Freddy vs. Jason when that guy's sleeping on his
with the bed.
With the bed, and he gets macheted and folded up. It kind of reminded me of that. The glass scene with the lawyer getting cut in half. I mean, that's amazing. I feel like some of the designs, like I think the Juggernaut and the princess and some of those, they're like really creepy characters. But as you mentioned, some of the designs are just like, why would that even be scary? So, but yeah, so for the most part, just like the gore and set design is probably like the big standout things for me with this movie.
How you lose an entire family in a glass house?
One thing I forgot to mention as one of my favorite parts is the chase scene with the jackal, the ghost with a cage around its head, and it's chasing Shannon Elizabeth. And like at first you just see it because she puts on the glasses gimmick, and like she's like, oh, I see the ghost and it's attacking me, and then it changes point of view so that you see it from the point of view of Shannon Elizabeth, and it's just like, what the fuck? Like, that was terrifying because you see it coming closer and closer, but seeing it upside down running towards you, I think it was more effective because it just adds that level of like believability, but also it's a different camera angle. So it's like, well, I haven't seen this before in any horror movies. I mean, we've seen and we've covered lots of chase sequences in like, you know, Scream and all that, but this was something different. So I will give it kudos. I really wish there was just a lot more meat to the bones, especially when it comes to the ghosts themselves. I would have liked some scarier ghosts. I would have liked a lot more backstory. And the issue I have with this movie is that there's this incredible, like one of the best like DVD extras behind the scenes that I've ever seen, where it delves into the history of each of the 13 ghosts, complete with drawings, complete with like full on story analysis, that it's like, damn, if they had put this into the movie, this would be really great. It would have elevated it to a higher standard. But I understand at the same time that for pacing perspective, they're not going to go into a full backstory for each of the ghosts. But, you know, even just some of the things like the little ghost boy that has the arrow through his head, I would have liked more scary scenes with him. Maybe he's like, maybe he befriends the young child with the annoying scooter at first. By the way, I was hoping that kid would actually die because he was kind of annoying. So I was like, kill the kid, kill him.
Ah! Damn it! Bobby, it's the third time I've tripped on that stupid scooter.
Sorry.
Kalina, aka Miss Honey, seeing her getting crushed into the walls, I pissed myself laughing watching this. But as a kid, you best believe I was horrified by that sequence, being like, oh my god, her skull like snapped and everything. Oh, that's horrifying. And now it's like, haha, Matilda probably did that. She's like, you gave me a B-. Whoosh. Like, it killed her.
Call me Ishmael.
The overall thing I have an issue with this movie is that it's genuine lack of like scare scenes. Like, none of the monsters are scary. It actually reminds me a lot of like American Horror Story, even like the newer ones where you have the guy with like the pegs and stuff, and he's whatever you want to call that, the hammer guy, whatever it was, reminding me of like the New York season of American Horror Story. It's just like a leather guy. Again, it's like when I said House of Haunted Hill, it's like you're going through a maze and like, oh, there's like the fat woman with the kid, like the scary woman or whatever. There's like the hammer guy. Like none of it didn't scare me, and I was like, cool. I like that they were trying to like tell a backstory, and maybe if there was maybe even a flashback, it could have been a bit more convincing, but it just didn't come across. And apart from some kill scenes, it's just not, it wasn't a good, entertaining film to watch. Like, I'm not going to watch it again.
Who are you to play God?
That fucking stocks ghost. How stupid is that? I also reckon the ghost with the cage on its head is ridiculous as well. It's like, why would I be scared of that? I don't understand.
There's nothing terrifying about that.
Matthew Lillard doesn't really pop in this. Anybody could play the character. I actually didn't really like Miss Honey's character either. I feel like they could have done more with that character. It's a bit of a shame. I really like F. Murray Abraham, who plays Cyrus. He was really good in Amadeus in the 80s. But I don't know, they didn't really make much use of him either. So I think that's probably an ongoing, like, a big issue with this, is that they didn't really do much with the script to sort of get these characters to really interact in an interesting way at all. It would even be interesting as the characters as themselves, which is unfortunate. It's a shame when you've got a movie like this where it's almost like the characters are distracting from everything else, because it should generally be the other way around. The CGI in this is looks pretty silly. Some of the parts with the machine, like the center part of the machine, is when he's jumping in and out, it's like a level of Crash Bandicoot where he's got to like time it to get onto the things that go up and down.
There's a lot of trivia with this movie. IMDb has listed 43 different items, but the main thing that I'm going to talk about is this insane behind-the-scenes extras. I touched on it before in the previous segments, but it actually is responsible for a lot of the budget for this movie, and by a lot I mean like $4 or $5 million. But it was this huge, like, I think they had plans to release it as a standalone, like behind the scenes thing around general movie making, general horror making, but it shows the process of like the princess character, for instance. She spent 10 hours in a makeup chair just getting her whole everything done for her character. But it also goes into the backstories of all the different ghosts, and they have sketches, they have a full-on story for each of them, and it's done in such a way that it's like, wow, this whole lore behind these 13 ghosts goes really deep. But you wouldn't know it if you didn't have that DVD extra or the extra on a potential Blu-ray if there's one out there. And again, I'll say this over and over, streaming services really need to put these extras as part of their streaming things, because I would watch that over and over compared to the actual movie itself.
Arrested and put on death row, Chet's last words were, "The bitch broke my heart, so I broke her neck." That jealous monster would have made a nice compliment alongside Susan. Such wretched words and behavior, but his results were quite fitting.
Many viewers complained that the movie had a lot of strobe lighting and flashy editing, making it physically painful to sit through. So tying into Dark Castle Entertainment and their, I guess, penchant for wanting to have a gimmick when it came to like getting like people into the theaters. So they also gave out the special glasses, if you like, to see the ghosts. And in the original 13 Ghosts, which was released in 1960, theater goers also had to have special glasses to see the ghosts. So it's like one of the few details from the original movie that was kept not only in the movie itself, but also for marketing purposes. I like that meta take, but also at the same time, I'm like, well, this movie wasn't 3D. So what were the glasses? Were they like the cheap ones from Kmart you get for like science class or something? Like,
was it? It would have just had to have been a placebo. Unless they somehow edited in something just that those glasses saw, which seems like, you know, it would cost a lot of money. Maybe that was where the budget went.
Yeah. Like the fact it was originally meant to be 3D. Like, did they film some parts in 3D, or was it supposed to be converted to 3D? Maybe they blew over the budget, because funnily enough, that actually happened with Final Destination 3. It was planned to be released in 3D, so they shot everything in 2D. They were going to convert it into 3D, but they went way over budget, so the studio decided, no more 3D. So, who knows? And yet they saved it for Final Destination 4. Come on. No.
Yeah, no.
Ow. Hey, what the hell?
The effect for the torso ghost was achieved using a double amputee wearing a special black hood that could be used to digitally remove his head. I don't know if that's problematic, considering that it's like using a double amputee. So I guess any type of disability representation in horror films is good, but then at the same time it's like, well,
they're human beings!
Herbert Duncanson, who plays the Hammer, was not originally hired as an actor for this movie, but as a stand-in for reference and test shots. When the original actor who was cast for the role never showed up, he was given the role of that ghost as a last-minute replacement, as there was no time to hold auditions for a recast. I find that very interesting because this has quite a bigger budget. I wonder why the original actor chose not to come in for the movie. At least it would have been like a launch pad for other movies in future, but who knows?
Great.
This was the first film from a major American studio with 3 Arab American leads, so that being Tony Shalhoub, F. Murray Abraham, and Shannon Elizabeth. F. Murray Abraham has stated he only did this film for the money.
Oh, damn.
I recognize that I am blinded by nostalgia. I do recognize that it has a lot of bad parts to this movie. It has a lot of innovative parts, if you like. So I'm going to give 13 Ghosts 6 out of 10. I might give it 6 crushed Miss Honeys out of 10.
Why? Why are you so mad at me? I did everything you asked me to do.
I'm going to give it 5 bloody bathtubs out of 10.
I'm going to give it 5.5 eviscerated lawyers out of 10.
This is very ripe for a remake. I'm very surprised there hasn't been a remake already, even if it's done by Disney Plus or Netflix as like a TV series or something. Like they could do 13 episodes structured around the 13 Ghosts, but still have a coherent storyline throughout the whole season. So Netflix, if you're watching, yes, I'm free. Yes, you can hire me. I have plenty more ideas. But similarly, I recognize that this is quite dated. So, do I recommend this? Yeah, if like 90s, early 2000s horror movies are your thing, I definitely think check it out, but I don't know if you'd love it. You might like it, so that's what I'm going to leave it with. BP, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, look, apart from some cool death sequences, an explosive soundtrack, and Jerry Bruckheimer theatrics at the end, that's all it has running for it. Like I said, it's first time watching it. It was dated when I was watching it, and there's just no scare factor to it. I wouldn't really recommend this movie, unfortunately.
Boo. Throwing tomatoes at you right now.
Rotten tomatoes, thanks.
Save that for the ghost in the stocks.
Yeah, true. I'm sorry, how the fuck is a ghost in stocks supposed to be scary? They could have made any other ghost, and they're like... stocks. Coop, what are your final thoughts for 13 Ghosts?
Yeah, this was just a really nostalgia trip for me. It hasn't aged well at all. I agree with you. I think this is a good idea that could be explored as a TV show. I think your recommendation for 13 episodes and one on each ghost, and even like the finale could be the one about because the 13th ghost is like the human sacrifice, and then that could be, like they could. We're just giving away these ideas. It's insane. But yeah, I mean, if you're into ghost movies, check it out, but just be aware of the fact that it's pretty dated, but there are some really cool kills in this movie.
BP and Coop, just want to say thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To our listeners, if you like this episode, give us a like, comment, share, tip, subscribe, whatever. Just throw everything at us. If you hated or disagreed with our take, please write it in the comments. I love reading all the negative comments. We have too many positives, so we need to balance it out with all the negative. We also have previous episodes on House on Haunted Hill. We also have Saw, Final Destination, everything in between. Keep an eye out for future episodes. And if you hated this episode...
Just hold on till we